So, cool. So like I said, let's just go through and why don't you guys introduce yourselves to camera?
Hi, I'm Scenario. I'm a musician and co-producer.
Hi, I'm Richard. I'm one of the co-producers of the Cake Boys.
Hi, I'm Muscles Monty. I'm a drag king and co-producer of the Cake Boys.
Hi, I'm Sweaty Eddie.
Welcome.
And you're watching.
You better work.
Drag. The art of impersonating another gender using costumes and performance. That's putting it simply. Drag is queer art, gender liberation, and it's taking the world by storm. The most well-known drag artists are typically men dressing as women. Drag queens like RuPaul have pushed drag into mainstream television, movies, and even the runway. Here in New York City, the drag scene is elite. Drag queens have never been more popular than now. Yet there is an entire part of the drag community that is overshadowed and underrepresented. Drag kings are the women, transgender men, and non-binary drag artists, breaking the binaries of femininity and masculinity on stage. Yet the spotlight does not shine on them the way it does on queens. But a drag collective from NYC has brought their own spotlight to show just how powerful kings can be. Let's meet this band of kings who are having their cake and eating it too.
Hey, well, I signed my checks as Sam DeMonte. My pronouns out of drag are they, them. And yeah, in drag, I'm Muscles Monty, and my pronouns are he, him.
Muscles Monty is a non-profit coordinator from Queens by day and a colorful king by night. With a background in studio art and burlesque, Muscles has always been a performer.
I have a good relationship with my family, you know. They definitely are one of my biggest influences, oddly enough, in performing. Muscles Monty has a variety of expressions, identity. I love to say that he is misfortunate masculinity. There's always something wrong happening, whether it's he's losing his pants, he's like farting in public, he is the dollar store Halloween section. He's a little creepy, he's a little weird, but he's an all-around good guy, you know? A nice Italian boy. That's it.
My real name's Jamal. Stage name is Scenario. And I'm a music artist and a creator and also a co-producer of Cake Boys.
Scenario may not be a drag king, but he is a musician, bartender, and DJ who has also felt like an outsider in the queer nightlife community.
I've been songwriting since I was 11 and just like never stopped. By the time I was a sophomore in high school, I already had like 300 songs like written in a composition book. I do feel like an odd one out, but we didn't connect because of like a mission statement. We connected because we're all like dumb creative, you know, and just have so many skills. And just amongst the four of us, you know, really there's nothing that we can't do. So that was really it. I mean, I'm still a producer. I'm still a videographer, a video editor. I'm still a songwriter. Yeah, I guess I don't know. I mean, but also I mean, it's just like family.
I'm Sweaty Eddie, otherwise known as, my art persona online is Irma Fiend. My name's Lee, out of drag in life.
And in life, Sweaty Eddie is a freelance animator for platforms like Adult Swim, who transforms into a playful alien on stage.
Grew up near Salem, which is definitely being aware of the importance of Halloween at a young age was like... Oh, I was always a drag king, but like, you know, it didn't occur to me that that was anything that had to do with any kind of like, you know, gender identity. It was just, I don't know. Well, I'm Mikey, also known as the drag king Richard, and producer of the Cake Boys.
Richard is a hospitality worker who has been dressing in drag since high school, but he gives credit to the kings of the past for inspiring his drag persona.
I think it was 2015 or 2016. I did like a talent show all the way out in Long Island, and it wasn't necessarily a drag show. It was just kind of for fun. That was it for like a year. You know, like I had fun. I wasn't really thinking about doing it anymore. And then I met Sweaty Eddie, and it was like a year after that, and that's when Richard came back full force, and then since then I've been performing here in New York. Initially, I had seen the documentary Venus Boys years and years, way before I knew what drag was, way before anything. Even before I even, like, after watching it, I wasn't even considering it. I was just very, like, fixated on that documentary, and I loved what they were talking about. It was in New York City in the 90s, and yeah, I think I don't know, I after a while I was just like, I want to try it.
Star of Venus Boys and the first ever producer of a weekly King show, Moby Dick, has seen a lot in his almost 30-year career.
My motto became, instead of being an angry woman, I became a funny man. You know, the male power privilege, that women, we don't have that same sort of power privilege. Our power is different. So when we can usurp that male power privilege, and I mean, we can conquer anything because we can see it for what it is. It's, you know, all artifice. The 90s New York and the East Village was a very different time. And there was, as the drag kings were emerging, we were warmly welcomed, and we were asked to perform in all the different clubs, and we were a part of and doing duets with the drag queens. And you know, so it was a very expansive, really cool community. And every night of the week there was something. I mean, every night of the week, and we all went out and supported each other and had a blast. It was seriously the best time of my life. It was so much fun. It was absolutely wild.
Much like Mo, the Cake Boys' love of performing and drive for expression led them to drag.
Yeah, I mean, I think it goes back to the idea of drag as an extension of yourself. You know, I think that being a drag king gives you that opportunity to be the bigger version of yourself when so much of the world is about knocking down all of those tiers, you know, like telling you to not be your authentic self. I think, like, oddly enough, as a drag king, sometimes I am my authentic self. Like, that's the person that I wish I could be every day, but that person is too wild to be in the real world, you know?
I mean, doing drag is a way of exploring gender in a way that I'm not comfortable presenting in my normal daily life, you know? So in a way, yeah. But I think any aspect of my life is going to be part of my gender journey, you know? And it's continuously evolving and changing. And that's kind of like what I like about myself, is like, some months I'm going to be very masculine, some months I'm going to be very feminine, some months I'm going to be neither or both at the same time. It really just depends on like where my head is at in that moment. And I'm grateful to be in, 2022, where I'm able to like do that, you know.
Well, doing drag was like immediately like a light bulb moment for me for a lot of reasons. I think the main thing was the community, and like just seeing that there were other, like, you know, people of my, you know, gender experience that were embodying trans masculinity and femininity simultaneously. I had never seen that before, and like immediately I was like, I like almost had like a like reaction that was like, I I was like, what? You're allowed to do that? Like, what? 2 weeks after I first performed as Sweaty Eddie, I was like, oh my God, I want to transition. And like,
LGBTQ artists of New York City have long been mistreated. Before the Cake Boys, many bars and clubs were shut down in the early 2000s by then Mayor Rudy Giuliani. Drag kings and queens were stifled. But then came RuPaul's Drag Race in 2009, changing the scene forever.
You know, we didn't face discrimination that I could recall. Whereas today, because the drag queens are on television and the RuPaul drag queens, they command a ridiculous amount of money. And drag kings are lucky to get, $500. I mean, like for one, it's like practically, a college tuition for one appearance fee. And, in my fee, when I found out, I was like, oh, and I was like, wow, I can see what drag kings today are talking about.
Being a king sometimes comes at a cost. Since RuPaul's Drag Race has given drag queens an unprecedented platform, drag kings must fight even harder for equal treatment and equal pay in their local scene.
I don't know. It's like I've never seen drag kings in the spotlight like drag queens have, and I know it's simply because of RuPaul's Drag Race, and femininity is like more palatable to a lot of people. Sometimes masculinity isn't.
I mean, Drag Race has definitely like really hammered home the idea that like drag is men or people who live in the world as men dressing up as women. I don't think that everybody watches Drag Race and comes to that conclusion, but I think that a lot of people who aren't familiar with like the nuance of like queer people and people who live in all kinds of ways like ultimately see it as that.
I mean, anytime I did a show that was not just like mostly drag kings, I always misgendered or always called a queen. And a lot of times had to do with money. There have been times where like I'll get paid the guarantee, but then not get the tips that everyone would get. But then again, I didn't know how to advocate for myself too.
Drag queens and voguers dominate our scene. They hold the most crowds usually. So yeah, like I kind of had no choice. If you want to be in the queer scene, you pretty much just got to be around like drag queens and voguers.
Going to like the queer bars or the gay bars in the city, because not a lot of them feel like they're meant for me in the ways that it's all white cis men. I go in there, and I remember even I did a gig the other week, and I'm talking with my friend who's a white cis man, and two people approached us to talk to us. I was completely ignored, like I wasn't even looked at, and I'm like wow, weird, not weird, but it's like that's what they're focused on. That's what they want. That's who they want to be around. So I don't necessarily feel welcomed in the spaces like. So there's not other people that look like me that are there, so.
There's a lot of, like, misogyny in the community, even though most of us are men or, non-binary people. I think that I think a lot of it also has to do with history about, in the 90s, a lot of the drag king scene was shut down. So it was just kind of like, okay, where do we go from here, And then there was that, after that, it was kind of like everyone kind of got shut down. Then the RuPaul's Drag Race happened. So a lot of drag queens were brought into the mainstream and is still happening, It's like every day there's so many drag queens, which there's nothing wrong with that, obviously. Like I love drag, and part of loving drag is loving all drag. So drag kings just kind of got lost in the ether of that.
So, what's a king to do when there are so few spaces available? The Cake Boys made their own space.
The Cake Boys is a collective dedicated to highlighting local drag kings, trans and non-binary performers,
drag kings, like, why, like, I don't know, it was just like having a conversation, being upset about how we were treated by certain other performers, or like not feeling respected as drag kings, you know. And I was just like, I should start like a collective. And it was just, I didn't even start as something like, I'm gonna do shows, I'm gonna do this. I just wanted to post photos of the drag kings I knew, which were like 8 of them. And then I remember like just performing and always seeing Muscles Monty at the shows, and I didn't really know them, but I just always got good vibes about them. So I reached out to them. I was like, do you want to do this with me? And they were like, hell yeah. And Sweaty Eddie is my partner, if you don't know, but yeah, he of course wanted to do it as well. So we decided to throw a show.
The first ever Cake Boys production, Cake Nights, premiered digitally during the start of the pandemic in 2020.
Do you feel the vibe? This is my kingdom. Haters step aside. I'm what you believe in. Do you feel the vibe? This is my kingdom.
So like Cake Night Show is pretty much like a deconstructed like Saturday Night Live, like very low budget, but the creativity and everything is there. Like very Adult Swim late night programming, but gay.
Since their origin in 2019, the Cake Boys have staked their claim in the NYC drag market. The group has produced numerous scripted live and digital shows, performed at Bushwig, been nominated for 3 GLAAD Awards, and have been featured by the New York Times. Most recently, the Cake Boys' 4-week competition series earned them a feature in Insider.
Life-changing. Like, I think of some of the proudest moments of my life, and being able to do that show was like a highlight, a huge highlight. Because I met so many people. I feel like we expanded this drag community like tenfold with the amount of kings and performers that came out. I saw some amazing performances that I don't think I would have ever seen before. Yeah, I do. And you know, when I'm talking about things that like make history, like I think that to me feels historical because I don't know any other drag king competitions that have existed. And
yeah, it was like just a great success, and it was so cool. Like every week sold out. We got to like meet almost 40 new performers. It was a really beautiful thing to get to experience, and to see like, oh, this is needed.
Welcome to Fruitcake Fridays. This is the first installment of the Fruitcake Fridays, a little open pet drag show presented by the Cake Boys. Yes!
The Cake Boys currently host a monthly drag variety show at Club Cumming, and most recently booked a weekly show at one of the hottest drag bars in Manhattan, The Q.
It's just so weird to like want something so bad, and you have to like keep it cool and you have to keep your composure, and then boom, it just happens. And then now we're like at the fucking Q every week. It's just great. It's just, I don't know, like, and I wouldn't want to do it with any fucking body else but these like beautiful ass guys, you know, just
like I appreciate all this love, and I just hope now that like venues they're interested in us can see the potential that drag kings and things can have, to be able to give them a show, you know? So I'm hoping that happens. I'd love to be able to share the love and give these shows to some people that we work with, because they deserve it too.
The Cake Boys are the only drag kings to host their own weekly king show in all of Manhattan. That's something pretty momentous for kings. So momentous, in fact, that their premiere show at the Q will be featured on the hit drag series, Queens of Kings.
we want to really propel ourselves to another level. I think we want to give more opportunities to more performers. I think that we want to be able to have a space where people can come to and they know when they can come to it. You know, we're starting to do like a weekly show, which is going to be really exciting. And it's going to be so nice to have a home where people can know Thursday night, I'm going to the Cake Boys show.
I think a lot of people are going to be there.
Oh boy.
I just feel like nonstop nervous.
I had said, like, last night when I was making my mix and going to bed, I said, I feel like this is the first show we've ever done. And there's, like, no reason. Like, it's us. This should be the easiest show that we do.
True.
I only wear the most disgusting perfumes that I own. So this one is, you're gonna smell it. You gotta put too much on. Now I gotta go spray my costumes.
Although it's been no cakewalk, the New York drag community fuels the Cake Boys to continue taking up space. Ultimately, the Cake Boys hope to inspire further progress for queer artists beyond the boundaries of the Big Apple.
More about what we're doing is about, like, trying to find some semblance of existence, you know, between the real world, the reality, each other.
It's been hard even as a kid, like finding community, and finding a community where I feel like I fit in. Even in like the LGBTQ community, like there are spaces I felt not welcomed in. So like this is like one of the first times like I feel like I do have the community and like I'm seeing the community I want. So.
I think what it means to be a cake boy is just anyone who just feels left out, especially if you have something to say and if you have something to show.
If the space doesn't exist, you have to create it. Like you can't just like sit here and want it. I mean, you can sit there and want it, but like if nobody's gonna do it, it's not gonna exist. So I think that was a push to be like, I don't know what this is gonna be. Well, let me just do it and see what happens. And now it's turned into something that more than I can wish for, you know.